different colors, different names. But different is only dangerous when we forget that in the heart we're all the same. And we'll remember once we close our eyes to see that such distances were never meant to be. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, Hashem, or Heaven's Door. It's Muhammad, it's your mind, it's your soul, or it's your sight. It's the universe, it's music, Mother Earth, or Father Time. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? Whatever name you give it, it's the very air we breathe. Oh, it's the power of the love in you and me. One power. Oh, one power is what we are. One power. One power. Yeah, it's the moment of creation. It's an air.
So here is one of the fun parts of service. We get a chance to all be in community. And so what we like to do is call and response. So if you could repeat after me and find somebody who you did not show up with today. So a face across the room and simply say this: welcome to unity.
Welcome to unity.
And to that same face, I want you to say where love is felt and truth is taught.
Where love is felt and truth is taught.
All right, so now I'm going to give you a break. Find a whole new face. Find that face you did not come with. A whole new face. And I want you to say where lives are transformed.
Where lives are transformed.
And all is well.
And all is well.
And here's my favorite part. As we express the Christ within.
As we express the Christ within.
Don't you feel all warm?
Woo! Would you please stand if you're able? And we will sing together this morning. Would you please open your hymn books to page 212, 212. And we're going to sing a song called Weave. Everybody got it? All right, I see it. Here we go. Weave us together, weave us together in unity and love. everybody. You may be seated.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. Before we get to one of my favorite parts, which is welcoming our potential new people, I want to pass the mic to Reverend Greg Barrette, who's going to do our opening prayer.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here. Let's open our hearts. We're going to take an affirmation, an affirmative prayer called the prescription for spiritual alignment. So just align yourself to the truth of your being. And just know this. We are aligned with the presence of God within. We are protected by God's love, wisdom, knowledge, and grace. The God consciousness within helps us discover more about who we are. Thank you, God, for the gift of spiritual intuition. Thank you, God, for aligning our conscious, subconscious, and superconscious minds. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to be together. Amen.
Thank you so much, Greg. So, I have a question. Do we have any first-time visitors here? Like, this is the first time we've been in the room. Okay. All right. Welcome. See, I don't know if people know, it actually takes like a courageous spirit to say, okay, it's me, right? It's me. Welcome. Welcome. So, as we said, this is Unity where love is felt and truth is taught. Thank you so much for joining us today. And for any of our family and friends who have been here many, many times, we welcome you as well. So, okay, it's going to be a lot of announcements, so y'all buckle in. But the most important part I want to say is we're so happy that you're here. What I want to do briefly is talk about what's happening immediately after service next Sunday, which is going to be the annual congregational meeting at 12:30. So Reverend Betty is going to be back with us, and so she'll be facilitating that. Everyone is welcome. However, only church members can vote on the board. So we have a couple of people who are on the ballot. Their names briefly are, we have Donna, Barbara Gordon, Rupali Robinson, and Phyllis Shepard. So the fun thing about the congregational meetings is effectively an opportunity to kind of hear the state of unity, right? We'll be able to have an opportunity to share ideas as well as concerns from board members. So the bios are posted on the website for those who are on the ballot. Feel free to check them out. Okay, so that's that one. The next one is last Sunday, Reverend Betty, her entire talk was about the 5 love languages. And so we are excited to say that that book is actually in the bookstore. And so I got to tell you, it's an incredible read. It's an easy read. And if you don't know what your love language is, it's definitely helpful to be like, oh, okay. I didn't know words of affirmation meant that much. And so it's like having that thing. And so definitely it's effective. I've been able to say, Sally, you know, my words are my thing. So, yeah. And she's like, you're right. You look great today. JK. Okay, so we're super excited about this one. Our very own Dr. Christina Gilman is going to be leading a workshop. Yes, Christina, if you can wave your hand briefly. So if y'all don't know, Dr. Gilman, yes, that's right. Dr. Gilman earned her doctorate in counseling from Boston University and is an ordained Harmony of Life Fellowship minister. So Christina's worked as a psychotherapist, as well as a college instructor, as well as an excellent workshop facilitator. So this is like, you know, a bundle. And so what Christina is doing is she's leading a workshop called Saging While Aging, all right? So creating the gold in your golden years. And so Christina has some flyers, and I have one up here. I'll just briefly give the dates and times. It's going to be Tuesday mornings, 10:30 a.m. to noon, starting March 14th. And they go all the way through April, so we're really excited about this. Please connect with Christina after the service, just to kind of like talk shop about what to expect. But we are excited about that. And in the spirit of workshops, immediately after this service, there's going to be a workshop facilitated by Reverend Barrette, for men. All right, so I had to clear my calendar to make it work. So yes, and it's super exciting. Shout out to all the people who are preparing food right now for all the brothers who are staying afterwards. So yes, welcome, and let's have a good time. In the spirit of Greg Barrette, what I want to do is, y'all give me a second, I want to get his bio. One of the things that he said to me, which is probably most exciting for many of us in the room, is that Reverend Barrette actually writes for the Daily Word. Yeah. And I told him, I said, you know, one thing that's really incredible about the Daily Word is many of us have experienced this when you open up the Daily Word and on that particular day, somehow in the cosmos, that's what you needed to hear. And it's really a testament to how deeply connected we are as in divine energy, in divine spirit, that somebody thousands of miles away who might be plucking away at a computer or however y'all do it, that somehow we're connected because that message it spoke to us. Reverend Barrette was born and raised in Unity and has been a Unity minister for 43 years. Formerly the director of International Youth of Unity, Greg was elected of 4 Unity regions, vice president of the International New Thought Alliance, and has led some of Unity's most successful ministries, including Unity of Delray Beach, Renaissance Unity in Warren, Michigan, and Unity of Overland Park, Kansas. He is a certified Healthy Congregations facilitator. Greg currently teaches for the Center for Enlightenment and is a staff writer for the Daily Word magazine. Thank you so much for being here, Greg. We're super excited. So I don't know if this is on your email signature, but it says, I am a soul in evolution. Yes, we all are. Yes, we are. So we have a lot of hands that made this service possible without name dropping too much. Shout out to Alejandro, who's on our ones and twos, making sure our AV is good. We have Ann, who is our prayer chaplain. As we all know, prayer is an important part of Unity, and so please connect with Ann after service. She's keeping our space lifted. We have, I know we have Jackie, who's our board member of duty, Rebecca, who you've also heard from, and then I'm RHT, Ryan Hope Travis. All right, y'all. You did it. We buckled in. That's it for the announcements. Okay. Did I forget anything? All right, cool. What I want to do now is I want to pass the mic to Christina, who's going to be doing our Daily Word, and then we have another beautiful song.
The daily word, the daily word for today is aspire. I aspire to help create a world that works for all. I held a vision. I can't help but remember Dr. Martin Luther King's I have a dream. I hold a vision of an equitable world, a global community that supports and encourages all people to live fully and reach their unique potential. I feel a kinship with those who hold a similar vision and work to realize it. My past experiences and present perspective show me what is mine to do and how I can contribute to realizing my vision. I trust I will be guided and inspired to find avenues of service where the things I do best and most enjoy will be most helpful. I bless people I may never meet, and I offer my time, talents, and effort to further my vision of a new way of living. With clarity of purpose, I take my place among a growing network of caring, visionary souls. The spiritual reading is from Ephesians 4:11-12. The gifts he gave were to equip the saints for the work of ministry, for building up the body of Christ. Again, the daily word, I aspire.
Well, in the immortal, inspiring, aspiring words of Kermit the Frog. Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? You can sing along if you like. Rainbows are visions, but only illusions. Rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I know they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connections, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish will be heard and answered when wished on the morning star? Somebody. Wow. Hey, hey. That's some feedback. All right. Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it. Look what it's done so far. What's so amazing and keeps us stargazing? What do we think we might see? Someday we'll
on. Hey, way to go. So whatever it was interfering with something, but I thought I was being real cool. Well, and that's what you get. So let's have a moment of meditation. Just realize the meditation is dipping deep into the well of being to know the truth of my being. I am open and receptive to the truth of my being. I am not this body, I am not this personality. These are my vehicles that I express in space and time, moving through this third dimensional existence. I am my soul that has evolved to this place and this time, so that I might move beyond all places and times into my true, real self, my infinite self. And I awaken to my soul by getting quiet, becoming aware of the beating of my heart and the circulation of the life force throughout my body. Being aware of the liveliness and the purpose of my soul's journey that brought me to this place and time, so that I might move beyond the limitations of the limited self and into the truth of the real self. And so as I let down and lay down my personality, I move into my individualized expression of my soul, the individuality of the Christ in me, the universal spirit of creation. And as my heart's arms open wide and embrace everyone in this room, everyone in my world, everyone in this planet, I find my sense of purpose by moving deep within this truth of being. My heart warm, centered. My mind calm, still. My emotions clear, open, peaceful. And my body at rest. I take just a moment to move into a silent experience of what remains here now as I let go into this moment. Thank you. I feel the support of my soul. My soul, which carried me to this place through experience after experience, evolving and reaching this point of possibility where for the very first time in my soul's evolution, I am ready to make a conscious choice, a conscious step to awaken to the desire of my heart, to commit to the truth of my being, and to will the will of God in me. Thank you, God, for this experience of love. And so it is. Amen. Well, as we come back into the presence of this room, we just feel ourselves in our chairs and experience ourselves fully here now. So, welcome. Thank you for having me here, and it's just good to be here. I was so grateful because I want to share with you that the desire of your heart is ready to be fulfilled. And maybe you know what the desire of your heart is. There's always somebody in the room, the desire of your heart's a new car, or a new boat, something. And I call you to go deeper, to go within and realize that there's a desire within your heart that is more than that. And that's what we're talking about here today. Back in the year 1998, I was at Unity Village and I was recording something. And my teacher, my spiritual teacher, Jane Hart, was an executive there for 10 years. She wrote this book, Spiritual Power Tools, Support for Your Soul, which I'll tell you how to get a free copy of. But she was, I was driving around with her. I was in her car, and we were driving right by the front gates of Unity Village. How many of you have been to Unity Village? And you know there's the front gates there, and it says Unity, and she says, "Pull over, Greg." I go, "Oh, okay." So I pulled over, and we're right in front of those gates, and she looks right through me. And I'd never had somebody look at me like that. And she said, "What do you want, Greg?" And I said, "What do I want?" I wasn't ready for that question. "What do you want, Greg?" "Well, I want to serve God. I've been a minister for 18 years. I mean, you know, that's what I was doing." "You want to serve God?" "Yes, I want to serve God." And then she looked at me with a little smile and she said, "Don't you think you ought to get to know God a little first?" I'd been teaching this stuff for 18 years. I was a Unity minister. I'd been trained. I was ordained. But I wasn't insulted because I knew her heart and I knew I could feel her intention, but she was trying to point something out to me, that there was something deeper than my experience up to that point, and there was something more real than I ever had experienced or had in mind. And so I looked at her and I said, yes, I do want that. That's my desire. I want to get to know God. And she wasn't talking about a God up there or out there. She was talking about God. God as an experience of the truth of who I was, my infinite self, and the infinite self of all of us, that higher power that is within. So I knew that's what she meant, and I wasn't hurt by it. But she looked at me when I said I wanted that, and she said, okay. And she had a look on her face that if I was to interpret it was, do you know what you're getting yourself in for? Because that commitment that I made to the desire of my heart was like flicking a switch in my life. Now, at that point in my life, I was in a wonderful church. I was growing a family. My life was in absolutely where I wanted it to be, and I had it all figured out. I could tell you right then what I expected to be doing in 20 years and how I was going to do it. And it was all right there. And in that moment, I was switching from my plan, the life plan that I came in to do to fulfill my ego's desires through the law of cause and effect or karma or whatever you want to call it, to a different desire, a higher desire, to the desire not of my ego, but of my soul, not of my personality, but of my individuality, not of my lower self, but of my higher self. And in making that commitment, everything changed. And I began an adventure. I could go into all the details of it. I might mention a thing or two, but everything changed. Now, I had somebody, when I shared this a couple of weeks ago, ask me, well, when that change happened, did it happen outside in your world or did it happen within you? And I said, well, it happened within me first. Always everything happens within you first. But as the change began to happen here, it rolled out from within me, and the effects rolled out, the situations, the circumstances all changed. And I've had so many experiences that have come out of that commitment that I made to my desire, my heart's desire. And at that moment, I asked myself, how can I articulate my heart's desire? What is my heart's desire? Right now, if you go into your heart and you ask yourself, well, what do I desire? Try to come up with some language for it. But don't worry about it being right, because it's always in process. The desire of your heart, although it is truly, it's written on your heart. Your heart and your soul are the same thing. So let's just, when I say heart, I mean soul. When I say soul, I mean heart. It's more than any of these words. But that desire evolves in your understanding of it over time. So for right now, today, what is your understanding of the desire of your heart? Some people, like Jane, her desire was, when she was 5 years old, I want God to speak to me. And that desire, the language has changed, but it's still there in her heart. What happened was, her mom had tuberculosis and had to go into a sanatorium for a while. And she was being raised by her grandmother. And her grandfather was a really tough cookie. He was a very, very extreme fundamentalist minister who actually threatened to cut off Jane when she was in 3rd grade because she was taking dancing lessons, saying to her mother, his daughter, you know that she's going to go to hell for this. So that was her grandfather, but her grandmother had a beautiful spirit, a beautiful heart, and would play hymns at the piano, and she was playing In the Garden, and he walks with me and he talks with me. And this little 5-year-old heard that, and something in her heart, she came into this lifetime with it. It was a desire to have God talk to her. Now, her understanding of what that God was has vastly expanded and changed. Her understanding of what talking to her would be like has vastly expanded and changed. It's not the same thing, but the seed thought was there. And she said to her grandma, I want God to talk to me after the song was over. And her grandma said, sure you do. Patted her on the head and said, that's lovely. When she got to about 4th grade, they let her in on a little secret. They said, well, that doesn't happen to little girls like you. That happens to people in the Bible. You just need to grow up and have a family and make cookies and take care of children, and that's your purpose. But God isn't. That isn't how it works. And she was a little bit defiant, and at first said, "No, I know God is going to talk to me." But her family was not open to that idea, and she realized as she was getting a little older that she better just kind of keep it within her heart. And although she understood this God talking to her, she thought it was like audible, and she did end up having some interesting audible experiences as an adult, but it wasn't what this little girl had in mind. But she kept it within herself, and she grew up, and she began the process of meditating. I don't know why I'm going off more on her personal story, but I think that's what this room needs to hear right now, so I'm going to share it. So her mother gave her a book. It was called I Will Lift Up Mine Eyes by Glenn Clark. Anybody ever see that book? It was on my parents' shelf when I was growing up. He was a New Thought metaphysical Presbyterian minister. And he taught all the things that we believe in unity, and his books were taught in unity churches. But her mother, who was pretty traditional in her thinking, this was a big step for her, this book, and she gave her daughter this book. And in the book it said, God will talk to you. But God will talk to you through something called meditation. And what was meditation? It was listening to God, but God would speak to you most likely in the silence of your heart. Don't expect to hear words. Some people have experiences, certainly, but that's, don't put God in a box. But it was an incredible book. And I remember looking at it when I was a little kid. And one of the things in the book, I'm just going off on a tangent, so have fun with me. One of the things in the book was write 7 checks. Get your checkbook and cross out the part that somebody could use, and write 7 checks to yourself and what it's for. These would be 7 goals for yourself in your life. And so she did, and it was, I want to know you, God. I want to experience God. I want to, and again, her understanding was very traditional, but that's all she wanted. All 7 checks. 7 out of 7. A one-pointed desire of her heart. Everything else was fine, but that isn't what she wanted. And when I made my commitment to that truth of my being, my first way of languaging it was I want to know, love, and serve God. And a few months later, or a few years later, a church sent me a letter inviting me to come and potentially be their minister. And they looked at their mission statement, and it was, our mission is to know, love, and serve God. Wow. And so that I ended up being there for quite a period of time. Today, this year, every year at the beginning of the year, those of us who are studying with Jane, who's now 90 years old, she lives in Tarpon Springs, and we many of us have moved there. Ordained Unity ministers, licensed teachers, several executives from Unity headquarters. Jane was an executive there for 10 years. Unitine sponsor, Wow Youth sponsor, couple of silent Unity workers who answer the phones. Gradually, we all gravitated there, and we all support each other, and we have an intentional spiritual community. We all live in separate dwellings, but we all meet together and do different things, and we do a lot of things online that are open to the public. But we're studying and growing together. And at the beginning of every year, we set an intention and write it in the back of our little spiritual power tools book, and then we all sign it and agree to it. And mine for this year is to lay down my mind and stay in the silence. It's because this fella is very active, has been very busy, and I came into this lifetime with an extremely high regard for the intellect. And the intellect is fine when it's time to do your taxes. It has a purpose. But Charles Fillmore said, Unity's co-founder, he said that reason will not take you into the next dimension of being. Reason alone will not do that. And reason has been getting in the way. So that's my goal, which is to stay in the silence and to lay down my intellect, my mind. Well, let's get into what I was going to talk about today, which is the soul. And the soul is the truth of who you are. And your soul has evolved. I am a soul in evolution. Together, I am a soul in evolution. And your soul has evolved over eons and eons of time, believe it or not, to bring you to this point, which is the first time in your entire soul's evolution when you have grown to the point where you go, this isn't doing it for me. You ever hear that song by Peggy Lee, Is That All There Is? Is that all there is? I've had a wonderful life. I've had great success and wonderful experiences. I've had the opposite too, because in the third dimension we live in the opposites, and the negative things practically teach us more than the positive things do in our soul's evolution at times. So I'm not complaining about that. But I've had all these experiences, but I got to the point where it wasn't enough. Is the experience of the third dimension, the dimension of the opposites, enough for you? Is that all there is? The likes and dislikes, love that has an opposite. Last week was Valentine's week. There's love that has an opposite. That opposite could be hate. Some people think the opposite of love is fear. Some people think the opposite of love is apathy. But love is in the opposites in the third dimension, but there's a love that has no opposite. Where does it dwell? In the fourth dimensional reality, that kingdom of heaven. Charles Fillmore said the fourth dimension, I'm quoting him, the fourth dimension is the kingdom of heaven consciousness. It's what Jesus was talking about. It's beyond this physical third dimensional experience. And on that dimension of consciousness, there are no opposites. We transcend opposites and we move into the truth of who we are. And there's no opposite to that love. It's a whole different experience. It's not a joy that has a sadness on the other end of it. It's a joy that is fulfilled and inclusive. It is where we're headed and where we are in truth. And the soul, in your evolutionary journey, brought you to the point where you're ready and you've decided to make a move. And I'm going to quote Fillmore again. He said that the soul evolves to the point until it reaches something which people almost never talk about, called soul involution. Charles Fillmore said soul evolution leads to the point of involution, meaning you've evolved over experience after experience after experience. You've learned things, you've grown, you've added on to, and then you go, no, this isn't, you're like the caterpillar who goes, I'm just tired. I'm going to rest on this branch for a little bit. I'm just going to stop here for a second. Let me just take a little nap. And then all of a sudden, wait a minute, it's dark. What's going on here? I got to get out of here. What? And then they're a butterfly. It's that moment when you involve, where you go within and you find out that you have fulfilled your evolutionary journey and you're ready to make a move to find out who you are inside. And it's something that's not talked about a lot in Unity churches, but Fillmore talked about it. We don't talk about a lot of what Fillmore talks about, but a lot of my friends, including myself, have gone into the archives there at Unity headquarters and have looked up some of the stuff that he said in his classes that they didn't dare put into books because it was just a little too advanced. But you know what? You're ready for it. I can see it in your eyes. And the truth is that you are ready to make a move from evolutionary consciousness of your soul, which moved you from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, all the way to this point where you're ready to move into the involutionary path, which is going within and finding out who you are and letting all the rest of it go. And that's a very interesting thing. And that's only found in silence. And that's what Charles Fillmore talked about. So your soul. Okay, now I had somebody a couple weeks ago when I was talking about this ask, say, what do you mean soul? Because I hear people use the word soul for different things. There's the soul, which incarnates and has these experiences through personalities and all this kind of stuff. But that soul has, imperfections and moves through and has to work through all kinds of stuff. Then there's the soul, which is the perfection of the Christ within that's already in that fourth dimensional consciousness. Which soul are you talking about? And I said, both of them. Both of them, meaning that the soul in potential moves and grows and changes. It's in potential, but it's potentially moving into what it really is within. Just like the caterpillar was always a butterfly. Do you know there's not a single cell in a butterfly that wasn't in the caterpillar? I always thought that a caterpillar would go into the chrysalis and then, somehow make some new cells and then come out as a butterfly. No, they just reconfigure and have a new relationship with themselves, the cells. all the same cells, and they don't add one cell, don't take away one. It's all in potential. And so the soul in potential is the caterpillar, but the soul realized is the butterfly in this metaphor. And so that soul is where we're moving. And we find out who that is through the practice of meditation, through the practice of observing the self. But let's talk about meditation first, because I know people all go, oh, meditation. I tried that once. I don't know. I couldn't sit still. You know Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who founded the hospice movement, came up with, on death and dying, came up with the 5 stages of grief. Okay, that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And I heard her speak to a group of people. I was in the audience, and she said, I didn't believe, in her Swiss accent, I didn't believe that I ever meditated. I could not meditate because I have ants in my pants. And then she said, but she was working with some Tibetan Buddhists, and the Tibetan Buddhists said to her, wait, we've read your books. You sit for hours by the dying, by their bedsides, and you just sit and present with them in the silence. What do you think you're doing during that time? She says, I found out I've been meditating all along. Everyone in this room meditates. And I've had people get militant about, I don't believe in meditation. I had one longtime minister say, Charles Fillmore never taught meditation. I could show you 100 places where he did. But you have to understand the definition of meditation is getting quiet and receptive to who you really are. Now, some people do this through walking through the woods. Some people do it in their yoga postures. Some people do it through various means. If I said to you, define exercise. First of all, if I said to you, is exercise good for you? We'd all say yes. What is exercise? And you do aerobics, and you lift weights, and you do yoga, and you do Tai Chi, and none of these things look like each other, and people can be dogmatic and say, my way is the best way. Maybe for me it is. Just like that, there are many different ways to meditate. All of them are valid, and they're all good for you, and they all, just like all exercise, ultimately makes your body healthier, so your practice of meditation makes your soul healthier. But the important thing with meditation is to make it a part of your everyday life, which means, I don't know, it's more, Charles Fillmore said it to this end, sporadic efforts count for little. It's important to do something every day. I've known people who say, well, I don't have time during the week to meditate, so I save it up for Saturday and I take an hour. And he said, that's not effective. What's more effective is to take 5 minutes each day. By the way, that shouldn't limit it. But if you truly start with a rhythm every day, have a place. In the middle of my couch, and this is where I do my teaching and my group leading online, right there, and I use that place only for meditation and doing my spiritual work, doing my journaling, doing my meditation, and also broadcasting when it's time to teach a class or lead a group. And that's my spiritual space. It's my meditation station. Do you have a meditation station, a place that you go, and don't have to be rigid about it, but a place that when you sit there, your whole body and soul say, I'm here. This means I'm meditating. And there's so many recordings on YouTube and apps and things. You can get a lot of help. There's some wonderful, wonderful ways. Music and so many things you can do. But the important thing is to do it every day. And 5 minutes becomes 10, becomes 15, and it grows. And it's such a part of my life. And I can't function without it because I want to live more on that side of life than I do on the third dimensional side of life. So meditation is important. And then there's taking meditation and then rolling it out as something called the observer self. The observer self is the same kind of receptive listening that you experience, the watching and being aware during meditation. You take it into your everyday life so that there's a part of you that's always watching and observing. And one way to exercise the observer self is journaling. I want to encourage you to journal. And I know Very few people like to journal. Maybe if I ask for a show of hands, it's usually 1 out of every 10. And the rest of us are very jealous of you because you like doing it. But for me, even though I have a resistance to journaling, my gosh, I get all my messages, all my answers, my purpose statement to know, love, and serve God, or my one for this year, which is to lay down my mind and stay in the silence. This all came to me in journaling. And 2 types of journaling. One is the cathartic journaling of writing all your feelings out, including all the ugly ones. I remember when my daughter was 10, she was having problems in school with some kids, and she said, "Daddy, do you know what I do when I have problems with kids?" I said, "What?" "I write them a letter." And I thought, uh-oh. And she said, No, Dad, I don't give them the letter. I rip it up and I flush it down the power toilet. And when I'm writing them the letter, sometimes my emotions are so strong that I cut a hole with the pen through the paper. And those words you don't let me use around the house? I put them in the letter. And I thought, what a healthy way to be, to let that stuff out and then to get rid of it. But there's a second kind of journaling, and that is asking questions and getting answers. Writing down the question. In this book, Spiritual Power Tools, there's a whole chapter on journaling, and there's 5 questions. And I'm just going to tell you now how to get this book. It's free, no postage. It'll be free. They'll send it to you. They'll pay for postage. You go to centerforenlightenment.com, centerforenlightenment.com. So that's how you get this. But in fact, you could probably go on the phone right now and do it because they just fill it out. But in the book, there's a chapter on journaling, and the 5 questions are, what am I feeling? Because you start with your feelings. What is going on that's pushing my buttons that makes me feel this way? How's this a pattern in my life? And the 4th one is, what is my soul telling me right now? And the 5th one is, if my soul were running things, not my ego, how would I handle this differently? And just writing these things down and answering the questions. I go through those 5 questions, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 every single day about something. And I get answers. And you get answers when you do this. So 2 types of journaling. One is to let things go, and the other is to get your answers. And to keep a journal. Have a loose leaf notebook, something. And there's so many wonderful tools in this book. I hope you do get this because they'll send it to you. But the idea is to support your soul on its journey to moving into your infinite, the awakening of your infinite self. Because the whole purpose why we were created was to wake up in our infinite self. Wake up to our infinite self as our infinite self. And so I'm going to, one last thing, unity thing, which is, how many of you read Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady? This is a classic book, but I always thought that unity was just positive thinking when I was a kid in Sunday school, because I was born and raised in unity. And then all of a sudden they taught Lessons in Truth, and in it she said, you're supposed to let go of and transcend your personality and move into your individuality. I was at first offended by that and very thrown by that. It's not just about being positive and having the best personality I could have. Well, that wasn't really working out that well for me anyway, so I learned that there was something else going on there. And the last thing I want to share with you today is just how my parents got into unity. My parents' daughter, my sister, was born with birth defects where she would never be able to walk. And somebody gave my dad the phone number of Silent Unity. And this was in 1949. And they didn't agree about religion. My dad was raised in Christian Science and then moved into what we call kind of New Age stuff. He was kind of out there. And my mom, on the other hand, was raised in Baptist churches and Methodist churches in railroad towns where her father worked in the Midwest. And she said the only difference between the Baptist and the Methodist churches, one of them you got dunked, the other got sprinkled, but it was the same teaching. So they didn't talk about religion at all. And then my sister was born, and they contacted Silent Unity, and my mom got the affirmation, you are God's whole and perfect child aglow with God's light, life, and wisdom. And my mom said it to my sister for a year, during which time they were led to the first HMO in the world in Oakland, California, Kaiser Hospital, and they were the first group to go into this hospital, and there was an experimental treatment that the doctor heard of. And so they reconstructed my sister's bones, but the most that would ever be able to do would be that she would be able to hobble through life if it worked real well with braces. But when they took the full body cast off her after a year, she was totally normal and had no signs of it. And the doctor said, "Have you been praying?" And so there you go. And so they raised me in unity. So this is a living truth. So let's just have a closing prayer and just open our hearts and minds and be aware. Be aware that in this now moment, the desire of your heart is being fulfilled. The desire of your heart is being fulfilled. And whatever that desire is, you can go home and write it down and sign it. And back up your commitment to your desire. Make that commitment in writing. Back it up with your will day by day to go through the process of unfolding the awareness of your soul. And so we give thanks. We give thanks for the commitment to the desire of our heart, and we back that commitment up with our will day by day. We say thank you. Thank you, God. Amen.
Wait, I have a quick question. So what you were talking about was the same thing as having heaven on earth?
I guess.
That's kind of how I'm hearing it. Like,
Sounds good to me. I'll buy that one. Thank you.
when we're part of that big soul, we can create heaven on earth.
Yeah, that is true.
Okay, got it.
Well, this is another song about connecting to your soul, connecting to your dream and your vision. I have a dream, a song to sing, to help me cope with anything. If you see the wonder of a fairy tale,
Thank you so much, Rebecca, and thank you, Greg, for that amazing talk. Words. Thank you again. This is our opportunity to embrace the spirit of giving. So what I want us to do is, if you have your love offering on your person, if you've given online, the most important part is to place your hands and hold that gift in your heart and repeat after me. Divine love, expressing in me, through me, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I have.
Blesses and multiplies all that I have,
All that I give,
all that I give,
and all that I receive.
and all that I receive.
So here at Unity, we have our prosperity prayer, and it goes like this. Unity of Gainesville, Florida is richly blessed and in the flow of universal abundance. We give thanks that just the right people with just the right gifts, with loving hearts and skills to help us grow, are attracted to us. We accept the good that enriches us and all with whom we have contact. Say it with me. We are prosperous.
We are prosperous.
We are loving.
We are loving.
We are healthy.
We are healthy.
All right, now we're gonna, and so it is. And now we're gonna pass it to Miss Gwen for the kiddos.
All right. Would you help me welcome in the children, this little light of mine? You want to stand up, you can. Are they there?
Look at them rolls, y'all.
We're big girls. We can sit up now. My friend Isabel and Kenya are back today, and she joined right in. She was able to sit at the table, and she talked about lots of things. And what we were talking about is love, right, Isabel? And Isabel was teaching her all kinds of things. She showed her colors and how to put things in a box and take it out of a box. And that was showing love and kindness. Where are you going? And she especially likes Isabel's shoes because they're sparkly.
Thank you, Miss Gwen. Okay, we're gonna rub our hands together and we're gonna bless the children here, the children in our heart, and the children whom we have contact with. Okay, here we go. Children, we love you.
Children, we love you.
We bless you.
We bless you.
We appreciate you.
We appreciate you.
And we see the Christ presence within you.
And we see the Christ presence in you.
We
Love you. We love you. We really, really love you. Mwah!
All right, now, one of my favorite parts again, we're gonna get in our big circle, our community circle. And we're gonna pass it off to Rebecca.
Okay. Stretch, everybody stretch. presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed
So
to
for all the
be.
men who was gonna stay for the
I'm in the right place.
works to talk,
At the right
if you can meet in the front briefly.
I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed